Hi guys, I'm Nick Thomas and welcome back to the Academy of Historical Fencing. Today we're going to be looking at the slip in British Military Swordsmanship from Roworth with a few extra notes. I'm going to explain what it is, how you do it, and also then give you some exercises that you can do with it that'll develop your understanding of the slip and allow you to train it at home, as this video series is working on. So first of all, what is a slip? Well, normally when we say slip, what we actually mean when we're in a guard position is that the front foot comes back to the rear foot. Now that is a slip, it's not the only slip. So a slip is just removing that bit of the target on you that your opponent is aiming for. So if my hand is extended here and they target the hand and I lifted it away, their sword passes by, that was a slip of my hand. If I put my head like this and baited them to hit me on the head, and I moved it back, the sword swung past, that would be a slip as well. Wouldn't recommend that one, it's not in the manual, but it would technically be a slip. So it's removing that part of the target that they're aiming for, which then exposes them to a fast counter. So we're going to talk about the ones that are mentioned in Roth, which is the slip of the hand and the slip of the foot. So firstly, why would you slip the foot? The one with the hand, that's kind of obvious because you've just seen it. Move it out the way, their blade goes past, we hit them. The slip of the foot, the obvious thing, which actually is in most martial arts systems using swords, is that when somebody strikes for the leg, we just move it out the way. So rather than defending somehow, because this occupies our blade, we move the foot out the way so that the sword is free to strike. So it's a really simple means of defending the leg. Means it's basically it's a void, and there are various different ways it's done in different systems, but withdrawing the front leg is very, very common in lots of forms of swordsmanship. But in British military swordsmanship of this period, of the Napoleonic period, the slip is used, the slip of the foot, way more extensively than just when the opponent is targeting the leg. So if you look to say rapier systems, or you look at later sabre systems, they'll tend to stay in guard and defend, make your parries. Whereas in British military swordsmanship, it's very, very common to see them slipped back during any parry. So, for example, an attack comes into my face here, slip back, parry inside guard. That would be an example. Now, why would they do that? There's a simple reason. This is the art of defense, and the absolute priority is on survival and not getting hit. And Roth says it openly in his manual, is that you withdraw the leg so that if they change direction, they're not able to hit your leg. And that's exactly what it is. So if in any way they deceive or make a second strike that's very fast, so even when they will come into a high target, they can redirect, go down to the leg. So it's all very well thinking, okay, I'm here, there's a cut coming towards my head, cut one, I move over to parry inside guard, they drop under and cut to the leg, which is actually a very, very common way of targeting the leg, as a very simple feint, which I will do a video on quite soon, actually, on feints. So that's why we do it. It's so that we stay safe as much of the time as we possibly can and avoid those leg hits. And if you look at the Angelo poster that's on the same system, every single part of that exercise has the one that's defending slipping the leg back to here, no matter where the attack's coming in, with the only exception being the counter time shots where they stay in the end of a lunge position, which is an exception to the rule because there's always an exception to the rule. But if you go back to Roth for a moment, he describes the slip in most circumstances. So if you look at his guard section, he tends to talk a lot about slipping on the defenses. All the plates that actually show engagements in his manuals show the slip on the parries as well. So my opinion on how much to use them is train it to do it a lot. When you're doing your drills, do it all the time. And when you're sparring, be so comfortable that it's instinctive and natural to you, but you don't necessarily have to use it on every single engagement. But keep drumming it in because it's really, really useful. Okay, so let's go to the slip of the hand first of all, because that's how Roth describes it. If somebody is cutting towards our hand, the simple method of defending is to just slip the hand back to the chest area, and we align the edge and the ward iron in the angle that the opponent is attacking us. So if they're attacking my right side, I would stay in an outside guard position and withdraw it back here, their blade swings past, and then strike them back. Which you could use cut 1 or 2. Roth does actually say which one he likes, but you ultimately can use either one. And if they're targeting my right side, withdraw back to the chest, staying in, attacking my left side, withdraw back to the chest, edge online, so that if the blade did come a bit further than expected, we still defend. He then goes on to say that some people are able to defend just like this, and others will need to add in a slip as well when they're doing a slip of the hand. And you have to judge that by yourself, depending on how much reach your opponent has, how deep they're attacking, as in how far are they reaching for target. So are they aiming to just snipe the hand, in which case that would be enough, or are they going deeper to take elbow, upper arm, in which case you are going to have to use that foot and get a bit more distance. So there is the slip of the hand. So from here, this guard position, withdraw back to the chest, either in outside or inside, depending on the angle of the attack. And add in the slip of the foot if you think that it's necessary. So let's get on to the slip of the foot. In our guard position, the slip of the foot is just the front foot coming back to the back foot. Now, exactly where, he actually says it's to the right of the line, which if I stand on a line, my heels are now in line. If it comes off the line, it's like this. That's what he describes, which is the way I tend to do it. And you will also see in some of the illustrations it buttressing against the foot like that. He doesn't describe that, but he does show it. I'd avoid that if possible, because people have a tendency of just buttressing up and getting stuck or toppling over and things like that. So I would just come to the side of your rear foot like this. And in terms of distancing of your feet, I always go heels in line personally anyway, but if you look at a lot of the 18th century manuals, you'll see the foot being slightly off like this. And if you are more comfortable doing that, absolutely feel free. So there's now a little bit of space between the heels this way, but I always instinctively go back with heels in line. That's just me. Right, so with your slip, back to here, in. And you can also, if you'd like to add in a bit of flavour, you can add in the Thomas Mathieson version. So Thomas Mathieson wrote a contemporary manual on British swordsmanship covering much the same material. Adds a nice bit of extra flavour. And his slip is back like this, so that you actually pass the foot and end up on the ball. Now, I actually like that one a lot, and there's a simple reason for it, is that sometimes people are striking so deep, remember, striking long, that they are able to hit your back leg even if you get to a slip. And if you've done this one, you can very quickly pass back and you've covered a lot more ground and got that back leg out of the way of where it was. So I'm a big fan of using that Mathieson version of the slip. Depends basically, again, how source purist you want to be about sticking to Roth or whatever, but Mathieson is in the same lineage, same system, so you can use that if you want. I do like it. Okay, going back to it. When we make our parries in Roth or Angelo, we step back into a slip position. And when we lunge, we also often need to come back into a slip position. And that is because people are riposting. So when you drill this at home or in training, you need to make sure you practice it from slipping from a guard position and slipping from a lunge position, because in the fight you're going to need to do both. So that's the way to practice it. So from your guard, and remember you're likely going to need to have to change guard. So as this is the first exercise, start in your outside guard, slip back, come to inside, recover, slip back, come to inside. And that is a really common method of defense for the Roworth system and British military at the time. Then go to inside guard, slip back, parry outside. You get the idea. So that's a simple way of doing it. Now, Roworth is a back-weighted, as in body-weighted system. So that it's, if we just drop to the middle weight in here, Roworth just likes to be a little bit on the back foot. Why is that? Well, it's because this leg wants to be able to move freely at any time. And my personal opinion on the slip and how it's done fast and how I like to do it is this leg, you see, is already bent. And I find if you straighten it first, it basically allows this leg to essentially pendulum back in. And if you weight your body weight further forwards, it's much harder to get it back out of the way. So from here, you're back weighted, this knee is bent and springy, and the moment you need to slip, straighten the back foot, and the front will just hover and come back. So that's the way I find to keep slips working effectively. Because when leg shots come in, they're quite sneaky and you need to be fast on it. You often are not going to see it come until the last moment. Right, so that's your first exercise. Outside guard, slip back into inside, and then back to outside. And you can keep practicing that and work on your body mechanics. Then, from your slip position, lunge. Because when you slip, you have likely either just parried or moved out of the way of their blade. And you want to take that opportunity to hit them back. So, next exercise, outside guard, slip, and lunge. With any cut you like, don't really mind. Back to guard. Slip, lunge, back to guard. Slip, lunge, back to guard. And that's a really good exercise for getting you into the habit of training exactly as it's shown, especially in the Taylor lessons, but throughout the Roth and Angelo system. And then, so you've just done slip from your guard to your heels together. You've also now done slip and lunge. Okay, and now we need to do lunge to slip. So, from this position, launching an attack. So you lunge with any cut you like or thrust, slip back to a parry, back into a lunge, slip back into a parry, back into a cut, slip, cut, and we can go both ways in terms of our inside-outside lines. So experiment with your attacks, and when you come back to the slip, also experiment on your ripostes and just throw in the flavor. Mix your cuts. I've done all the 6 cuts so far. I'll add the thrust soon enough, and that is your exercise. So there's the slip for you. And also, if you're using the Angelo posters, he does use the term shift, and that is when somebody's attacking the leg. Shift is up into guard of St. George, and the leg is shifted. It's all slipped, as we know. So from here, and of course, it's looking for a head cut afterwards, which commonly follows in the Taylor lessons that are shown in the Angelo poster. There you have it. That is the slip. It is absolutely essential to British military swordsmanship of this period, but it does appear in so many forms of swordsmanship when the leg is attacked. But again, it's used extensively during all defensive actions, or most defensive actions in Roworth. And again, if you are good enough to be able to just slip the hand back and avoid those strikes, excellent. That's a good option. But really work on getting your slips in during all of your parries. And especially if you're using hanging guards and guard of St. George, the leg becomes a vulnerability. Even though your opponent should be very wary of what's coming next, they still take the opportunity to go for it. And you'll notice that when you slip, you do actually gain a bit more distance away from your opponent, which means that if you do screw up, so you make your parry wrong, so they're aiming for the belly, for example, and we come back to a high inside guard thinking they're coming for the face, they slip under. Well, because we've slipped back, they've got to cover more range, they'll probably miss, or you'll take a much lighter hit rather than full impact. So there's the essence of the slip. It's all about keeping you as safe as possible throughout the fight. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already.